our health fair today. Y'all have heard from people like Dr. Michelle Taylor of the Shelby County Health Department, Dr. Edmund Ford Jr., the County Commissioner in District 9. Y'all have heard from vendors and people who have some wonderful healthcare organizations and institutions around the city. You heard from Memphis Mayor Paul Young. You've heard from myself and the lovely lady Denise Fisher and many of the Abyssinians. And now we're going to spend some time in dialogue and conversation with two mental health practitioners, both of whom I know, and I am honored to have them here. And so I want to take a moment and introduce briefly, because they will really introduce themselves, my dear sister Chantel Ferris-Stokes. I'll give it up for her. And my dear brother, Dr. Timothy Terry, I'll give it up for him. You like the doctor part? You like the doctor part? Doc? You like the doctor part? I'm getting there. All right, so I want to thank y'all for being here, and I know that we're going to have a conversation, and the theme or the title for this panel is Breaking the Silence, Mental Health and its Impact on the Black Community. So the first thing I want to do, and I didn't want to take too much time trying to introduce you because I would have done it inadequately. I want you to introduce yourself, say more about your personal practice, and also say something about your passion insofar as what is it that led you into this particular field, and what are some of the things that drive the work you're doing now. And Ms. Stokes, I want you to go first, but again, thank you for being here, so please introduce yourself to the Abyssinian family.
Good afternoon. I'm Chantel Stokes. I am a licensed drug and alcohol counselor level 2 for the state of Tennessee, and also master level therapist. My specialty is marriage counseling and family therapy. I've been doing this for 23 years, believe it or not. I started when I was 21, a senior at LeMoyne College. I began working at a group home for pregnant teenage mothers in what I like to call the hood. And it was wonderful. It was great. It just opened my eyes up to the many disparities that were taking place, because although they believe that I couldn't relate to them because I was in college and I was in a sorority and things like that, I very much could relate to them. So how I ended up being a therapist is because of family dynamics. I initially wanted to be a veterinarian, and I was on my way to UT Knoxville to be in their program. But I kept on noticing and realizing that something was different within my family, which made something different within me. So my grandmother asked me to stay in Memphis and go to Lemoyne, and I did. And I guess, as they say, the rest is history. I've been in private practice for 6 years, and that kind of just honestly fell into my lap by God's grace, because I was working in somebody else's office and I was going to buy into their business. And this person was honest enough to say, just get your own business, which I did. And so it was wonderful how it just literally, like I said, fell into my lap, and I'm so grateful for that. But here in Memphis, I worked everywhere. Shelby County Head Start, Rape Crisis Center, the jails, the prisons, the psychiatric hospitals, the trauma center, literally you name it, I've done it. And that is my ministry, because people of color are still so underserved when it comes to mental health services, and understanding that mental health and trauma is something that we do need to address and stop sweeping up on the rug. So I love being a therapist. During the day, 5 days a week, I drive 1 hour to work at the prison in Henning, Tennessee, where I am the program manager for their substance use programs. I run 3 different programs, and it's very interesting when people who are incarcerated but probably shouldn't be incarcerated because of their mental health issues. So I'm a native Memphian. Like I said, I graduated from LeMoyne College. I met this fellow right here back in the day, but if you want that, we can talk about that in the back room.
Okay, so now we're going to stop. Y'all give it up for my dear sister Chantel Ferris-Stokes. Y'all put your hands together for her. Yes, we met at LeMoyne, and I'm so glad that my sister has been maneuvering the way that she has. And we'll definitely dive into more of what she shared about, like, mental health and its impact on public safety or criminality and things of that nature. Come on, Brother Tim Terry, tell them about yourself and your practice and your passion.
Thank you guys for having me. It's really a privilege to be here. I want to say cheers and salute to Chantel, because just hearing your resume and all of the things that you have blessed your clients with, that's a lot. She deals with trauma. And I was just saying this, like, man, somebody that deals with trauma on a daily basis, that's a lot. So cheers and salute to you. I got into private practice based off of working in the school system for 16 years as a counselor / behavioralist. And I got stumped with something. I worked in alternative schools. I had a student that came to me, you know, I was the cool guy that they would come, hey, Mr. Terry. So he was talking to me and said, Mr. Terry, I am hearing some voices that are telling me to harm myself and my mom. And he was freaking out in my office and internally, as was I. And so from that point, I had to get someone in. I said, you know what? Something unlocked and unleashed in me that I wanted to be able to attend to that level of pain, attend to that level of mental dysfunction. So from that, I left the school system right before the pandemic, and I've worked in Lakeside. I've worked for some other private practice practitioners, and then I went into my own practice. So I've been doing this for the last 8 years, and I've seen it all, done it all, excluding addictions, and I don't work with people in addictions or people that have experienced some level of schizophrenia, because they're not in their right minds anyway to listen to me. So I deal with all other areas of mental health, marriage, kids. I have a group practice, so we have kids that we see, we have adults. My oldest client is 73. So it's been a blessing for me to do that. I love what I do. My passion is, it seemingly has shifted. I am seeing more couples than I ever have since I've been in practice, and doing a lot more family system work now.
Yeah, give it up for Brother Timothy Terry. So I think one of the things y'all are articulating that has driven your passion are the things that you have seen, especially happening with black folks in black communities. And I think it's no secret that there's a particular type of stigma associated with mental health challenges or mental health crises and things of that nature. So much so, I know it's a lot of people who are kind of shocked that you're at a church and they're having a conversation about mental health. So both of y'all looked at me in a way that I want y'all to express, right? So what does it mean for us to have this kind of cultural stigma? How have you seen it shown up? What are some of the ways you feel like we can address it? What is it like being at a church having this conversation, knowing that so many people think either the church isn't having it, or if the church does dare have it, they tend to have it in a very superficial and shallow way? Either of y'all could go first, but I want to lean on my sister. The floor is yours unless you want to pass it on.
Well, I have a lot to say. That is one of my platforms that I do have, which is therapy and theology. I alluded to mention that I am also a licensed and ordained minister, so I believe in blending the two. I believe that the clinical and spiritual must go together, especially for people of color, because we have been taught for so long that you only do one thing, and that is church, which is wonderful. However, as he mentioned, with a serious and persistent mental illness such as schizophrenia, you need a little bit more to usher you through that. So no disrespect to the wonderful, great Reverend Dr. Earl over here, but you know, he can't help you not be a schizophrenic. So you would need to come to a licensed professional who has been through extensive training, testing, CEUs, paying internships and things like that to help you navigate. are in therapy, there is absolutely nothing wrong with going to church. You know, the thing that has dismayed me is when leaders who are not as in tune with reality as my brother here, when they sway you from coming to therapy. I think that's problematic, and I think that's wrong, and that's where the stigma has been perpetuated with people of color.
You want to add to that? Brother T?
Yeah, this is kind of a loaded question for me. The stigma, loaded because I am the son of a pastor, and so I grew up all things church, right? And so I know how to respond and reach a person if that's where you are. And I also tell all of my clients that this is not spiritual or religious counseling, because there's a science behind some of the things that, a lot of the things that we do, that I'm encouraging you to have measured skills that you're working towards to address whatever the issues are, rather than, as my t-shirt is going to say, after you leave the altar, then come on, sit on down on the couch. Inside joke. And so in addition to all things prayer, it's good to have a spiritual foundation. As Chantel said, you need that other practice, that other piece to it. And here's the other, the part of it, the other layer that I speak from. When we say the stigma, a lot of times this has been seen as not for black folks. This is what white folks do. Right? This is not what black folks do. We pray about it, we keep it in the house, we just don't tell nobody, and so that's the stigma. Absence of faith, as well, you know, talking to someone else, a stranger, about something that's going on in the family, some deep-rooted trauma, is not something that we've been taught. It's not practiced. I also feel that there is a debunking that theory, that stigma, because now mental health is in vogue. A lot of people are talking about it now. Yeah. And so I do see a lot of male clients. I do see a lot of African-American clients in all, and some other races as well. So we are a part of the conversation now, that statistics now show that we are being serviced in addition to those that still keep it quiet.
Man, I really want to build on that. It's two things that I think y'all have presented that are extremely important for us to dive into a little bit deeper. And for those who are in the audience, or even those who might be watching on our stream, if you have questions, there'll definitely be some time for you to make questions known to the panelists, or if those who are watching online just want to type something in the comment section, we'll be monitoring that. But y'all are talking about the disparity between access to mental health for black folks as opposed to access to mental health for non-black folks. Can y'all say some more about that? There's this other angle that I think y'all have really brought up that I want to dive into a little bit further too, about how in vogue it is now. And so I'll follow up with that, but I want to hear from both of you about like how you feel about the disparities in the access. Even though we know there's stigma, there are people who we all know probably want it and need it, but don't know where to find it or how to find it. So can y'all say something about that? And don't feel ashamed, you know, in plugging your own, you know, like you can say, y'all can come see me and see my business and stuff like that, but I did want to know like how y'all feel about that disparity in terms of access to mental health care.
Well, I've spent, like I said, most of my time working in community agencies, and I will be just floored of how many people of color will be in community behavioral health. I remember working at a wonderful place. I loved it. I fit right in, actually, believe it or not, in Orange Mound. And the majority of the clientele were people of color. Poor people of color. You know, they did not come to this particular location. They had different locations, but having worked in treatment centers, psych wards, like I say, even the trauma center, the majority of clientele that I was servicing at that time would be people of color. And the stigma, of course, is, even to this day, you know, people pay you to talk to you. And, you know, you tell them what to do. That is not what I do. You know, I do appreciate you opening up the door to, I consume a lot of trauma all day, every day. So much the fact that I left one place because that's what I got from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4:30 in the morning, and it was beginning to affect my health. And so I had to step away. And that's when I knew I was getting older, and most definitely something was happening with me spiritually where I was so affected by someone else's trauma. So the secondary trauma became so much that I did leave this one place. But people of color have been taught and has been embedded in us that if you do that, then of course you're crazy. And we are not crazy. We're strong, we're resilient, we can take any and everything no matter what. That's just what our ancestors would do. Our ancestors would never go to therapy, but our ancestors did need therapy. And so when we talk about the stigma associated with paying someone to listen to your problems, you shouldn't do that, and keeping secrets in the family. That's why we're here today, because we have so many secrets that, we don't even realize is a trauma. When you're talking to people and they mention things like, yeah, I was locked in the closet, that is not normal. And people will bypass these conversations, because I hear this a lot with the women where I'm at now. And, respectfully, not violating anybody's HIPAA, but out there at the prison and the programs that I am in, a majority of the clients are Caucasian women, because they want the help. They want to be able to make parole, they want to be able to get their kids back, and they want to look good for when they re-enter to society, that they got the help that they needed. So when I first got there was one black woman in their program, and the other 127 were white women. And I was like, wow, this is crazy.
I'm hearing something, Chantel. Tim, I'll come to you in a second. But I'm hearing, because I may have misassessed issues as it relates to access. I think I hear you saying it is out there. It is out there. Like people have access.
Yes.
They just aren't taking advantage of it. Is that what you're saying?
I am absolutely saying that, and it's not because I worked for Shelby County. I have issues with Shelby County, but the programs and the resources are out there. Just like people are ashamed to go to the health department because, that's where you got to go to get your birth certificate, but I don't want you riding down the street and see me going to the health department think I'm going to get tested for a STD. But I need my birth certificate. So it's stigmas like that. Well, I don't want to have to go to that building because, that building is known for X, Y, Z. But are there resources in Memphis and Shelby County? Absolutely. So that is not true. The resources are there. You have to be able to get up and get them, number one, and you have to keep going to get them. I've been in a place where y'all answer the same questions over and over and over again. Well, that's how we get our funding. We have to ask you the same thing over and over again. So that stops people from getting resources because they don't want to answer questions. Birth certificates, social security cards, how many people live in my house, how much my rent. Why you need to know that? I just want to get some help.
Yeah, so Tim, I know you're going to jump in, but I'm also thinking too about how much we inform our community members on these services, because I know, there's several people in the fellowship hall right now that represent organizations that are doing some wonderful work in health and mental health, and then people just don't know. I'm sure y'all run into people all the time who may have known you for a long time but didn't know that you were in, well, I don't know, that may not be the case. If that is the case, then speak to it. But Tim, say a little bit about the access and information kind of disparity or dichotomy and gap.
That's what I was going to speak to. I'm glad that you kind of pivoted slightly. I was definitely going to say that the services are there. We tend to think, though, of the agencies that are available are for extreme traumas. It's for the person that is dealing with that has been raped, or someone that's dealing with schizophrenia. They're talking to themselves on the street, like that's where they go. And that's not the case. There's access for that, and there's also access for what we could call lower hanging fruit, some surface things, like I just need to work through some of my stuff in my marriage. My kids getting on my nerves, and I don't want to be a parent right now. Like, there are some things, as she was saying, that white females are coming to deal with on a regular basis. And there's a two types of clients: the client that is dealing with crisis and the client that wants to prevent crisis.
Yes.
And so there are spaces for that. These places have always existed, and we are not taking advantage of them because we don't want to utilize our insurance. They have EAP programs. I know we're going to speak about that later. So the access is there. The programs have been here for eons. It's just the stigma and our absence of awareness that we can access these programs. It prevents us from taking advantage of it.
I don't know if I don't want no smoke or not, right? I might want some smoke right now. Because I honor what y'all are saying. But even as you say access to insurance, right? Knowing that our people often are disproportionately uninsured. What do we do then? If the issue is, if I have a congregant, if I have a community member coming to me, and to your point, and I've said this plenty of times, like if people come and I assess that there is a mental health challenge that is beyond the scope of my pastoral and ministerial training, I don't play about it. I'm like, yo, let me refer you to some people, right? Now, what do we do if the person says, I ain't stigmatized, I want to go, but I can't afford it, and I'm uninsured? So I'm inclined to believe there are a substantial number of people in our community that fall under that category, and if that's the case, you know, are y'all seeing that too? If so, what do you recommend we do? And so if that is me wanting to smoke, then I just want to smoke.
Two things, and I will get up with you too, because you remember now. Okay. So there is a program in the state of Tennessee that probably no one in here knows about because it's set up that way, but it's called Safety Net. So if you want mental health services, you can get mental health services at the community clinics like, I won't say their names because I'm not going to give them a shameless plug, but I used to work for a clinic in Orange Mound, which was Alliance Healthcare Services, and I love this job. I really, truly did. And you have safety net services for people who are not insured through Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Blue Care, Medicaid, and things like that. And it's free. You pay like $3 or $6 for your prescriptions. However, you have to give them all of your information. You know, where you live, how many people are in your home, your income, and things like that in order to qualify for the program. But it does exist. It is through the state of Tennessee, and it is for persons who do not have commercial insurance or state-issued insurance. So the resources are there. But once again, you have to get up and go to the health department to find out that you can get a free crib and car seat and things like that. You have to go to MIFA and stand in line and realize they will give you all the baby clothes that you need. Yes, but you know, we are so traumatized and petrified to be seen asking for something that we often would not ask for the things that we need.
But they ask me. I'm just saying, cause now I want to smoke. Okay.
Because you connected.
But no, so I'm saying, I think you're right that people don't know.
They don't.
Right? And I'm saying, I call myself relatively informed. Some of what you're sharing now, I'm glad you're listing these things because I get to log them because I want to be able to refer people to them. And I'm saying, I didn't know.
Yep.
And I know there's some stigma, and stigma is valuable. And when you were talking about trauma, you talked about trauma too, I thought about Joy DeGraw Leary's post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Love it.
And how she talks about how people experience trauma generationally, it's passed down in the genes,
Yes.
and for us now it's compounded because
Yes.
our ancestors, whether they wanted access to the healthcare or not, did not have access to the healthcare. And nobody, when emancipation took place, says, you know what, we've been whipping the hell out of y'all for the last 200 years, let us sign you up and get you some healthcare.
Right.
So I know that there's some stigma there, but I'm saying people are asking me, so I don't think it's just the stigma piece. I think it is a lack of information. Not that they just scared to go down to the health department. I know that there are people that are ashamed of that type of stigma, but I'm saying we need to mount some kind of massive healthcare information campaign in Black faith communities so that when our people are coming to us, we can not just refer them to you from a clinical standpoint and a private practice, but these resources that you're talking about are extremely valuable.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree.
I will add to that there's a book by Mark Rowland called "It Didn't Start With You." How inherited trauma is just passed down from generation to generation, the way to break those cycles, right? So when you say like the information, the stigma, that's something that's passed down. That's information that's passed down, whether it's we talk about it openly or it's just a part of our family don't do that. Right? So when we say the access, when they come up and ask you, if I were to ask everybody in here to raise your hand if you have a cell phone, all hands are going up probably. And so the person that's asking you, I'm going to say, do something smart with your smartphone. Google. AI will tell you, hey, what are some free mental health services that I can utilize? Bellevue Baptist is spiritual-based, religious-based counseling, and it's free.
Yo, hey, black folk, lean in. Don't. Not them. Nope, not them, right? Now I'm not going to take too much time because I'm just a moderator. But I'm saying, and this is why it was important to hear what Terrell said earlier too. And I know my brother. I know I support the thrust of what he's saying, which is basic research. Google it. I'm also saying, and we know this, the religious and spiritual based stuff. If you are black, not all of these white churches, most of these white churches are not, and a whole lot of black churches are not going to give you the adequate theological, religious, and spiritual help you need. I'm saying no, black folk, don't go to Bellevue Baptist. I'm saying no, okay? And you can, we can discuss that offline because I'm just a moderator, but I am the pastor here. No, not them, but the general thrust. Yes, find one, and they have, yes, I'm sorry.
I'm not disputing that. I'm just offering that if you were to do a Google search, there are more than one spaces. And even beyond that, any type of therapy is it's just like going to the doctor. Is it a good fit? If the fit is not there, my spider senses are going off, your intuition, your whatever you want to fill in the blank with, if that doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't mean that you just need to stop and just throw in the towel.
Right.
And
Absolutely right.
the other part of that is, do we have in the black church the infrastructure to offer that?
There you go. You're talking good.
Will you raise your hand to ask something?
Give us just a second. We definitely gonna open it up. And I'm sorry, y'all. I'm not trying to take up too much time with moderator, but I'm fascinated by this and intrigued by it too. So, yes, I at least want to make one more turn. But y'all do definitely prepare your questions. I'll dial up off of this in a second. I'm just so intrigued. Y'all, if y'all know me, y'all know my spidey senses are tingling. There was something that was brought up earlier I want to hear from y'all. Denise and I talk about this from time to time because she's, in the same field. So the mainstreaming of mental health, right? So that it is becoming like in vogue. How should we interpret what we're seeing in the mainstream? Because I think some of this is toxic and misrepresentative of what we really need to get our issues and traumas addressed. I appreciate, let's say Charlemagne the God or somebody talking about it from a, open kind of yes and trying to destigmatize it. But then there are some on some of these shows that we watch, and then there are segments where people are literally like in their therapy session and it's being broadcast. I would love to hear from y'all, how y'all experience and interpret that, and if you think that is actually helping to advance the cause for mental health care, or if that's probably misrepresenting actually what especially black folks actually need. What do y'all think about that?
So the first time I saw people of color going to therapy, of course, was on a reality show that I don't watch anymore. This was years ago in my, I guess, younger years when I actually did watch those type of shows. And I was happy to see that. But it is a misrepresentation because, A, it cannot be filmed nor televised because that is a violation of people's privacy no matter what they say or no matter what they have signed or no matter how much you have paid me. It took a long time to get this license, and I too went through hell with these people because they said, why do you want that license anyway? You already have a master's, you're already in business, why you want the license? Because I want it, so I'm going to get it. So it takes a lot of work and time to get the license, and they still do take us through what to me seems like a different process to be licensed. That's my personal opinion because that's my experience. But as far as it being trending and in vogue, yeah, I think it's cute, I think it's funny, but it's not the reality of how therapy works because therapy is hard, it's serious, it's in depth, and people are pulling back layers and onions and crying and snotting and sitting there looking at your wall for 2 hours. It's kind of like, I would like to go home, but I can't send you back out on the street like that. So it's a misrepresentation where you think, oh, I'm going to go to my therapist's office, I'm going to see Stokes, and we're going to drink mimosas, and we're going to laugh, and then we're going to meet up at Gucci and Coco with Chanel. No. Most of the time, I'm like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? So it's a misrepresentation. I think it did make people more curious and see, well, can it work for me? Can I do that? Will therapy put me in a different headspace? So for some people it worked, and for some people, they've got a misunderstanding because two people who I really enjoy as clients have asked me several times, can they bring their cup to therapy and drink while they're in therapy? I'm like, no. So I think it's 50-50. I think it's been a good thing, and then I think it's been misleading as well.
Tim?
Although it may be misleading, I think it's doing what it's supposed to do if it's going to inspire you enough to be curious. And out of that curiosity, go find out some information. And with that information, you even go on, if you go on Psychology Today, they talk, you will see people that are licensed. You will also see some people that are not licensed. And so, are you going to see them? Would you go to a doctor who's not licensed? It's about experiencing something and then recognizing this ain't it. And I tell clients often, like, this is not a 30-minute sitcom. This is not going to work out overnight like that. So we're going to do some work. It's more than talk therapy. It's do therapy. And with that, if you're not being challenged, what you see on TV, it could be interesting. Although it may be misleading, it's still something, I am not in any way a minister. And so I want to say a part about, I think it was Paul that says, like, hey man, I don't know what them folks over there talking about, as long as they're talking about, something like that.
Yeah, he says, just so long as the gospel is being preached.
Yes.
I therefore rejoice. Like, basically, I ain't hating on y'all, even if y'all preaching differently than I would preach, so on and so forth. Here's my last thing before we open it up, because you brought this up, and I think is a very important point. I want to hear from both of y'all. What does the church need? What does the black church need to establish the infrastructure that would allow us to do a better job of bridging the gap between spiritual health and mental health? What would you recommend? Give us our marching orders, or say, hey, Pastor, or and I know sometimes I'm the anomaly, so you don't have to say to me, but what do we need to say to the black church collectively that we should do to build that infrastructure or to make it more palatable for this connection between spiritual health and mental health?
I would say be honest, coming straight out of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which I am uberly passionate about. I don't think you should ignore the fact that someone who pays tithes, drives a Benz, lives in Collierville, is sitting in front of you with a black eye every other Sunday. I don't think that should be ignored because, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to make her stop coming to church. I don't want to bring attention to her. No, bring attention to that person because you are saving that person's life. So when leaders, for the sake of, I don't want to offend you, sugarcoat that, bypass that, you're part of the problem. And that angers me. I'm just going to be real honest. When you'll say, let's do this, let's do that, and I sparked a big debate one time when I said that people should not receive marriage counseling from their pastors because they're biased. I want y'all to get married. I want y'all to, be fruitful in my church, and the whole time you don't really know what's going on in their home because they're not going to tell you what they're going to tell me. Because, they want to be good and upstanding with you. I can't tell you that, whatever's happening.
You saying niggas lying to me when they come into my
Yes. Yes. No. Really? They lie to me too. But, I can be like, stop lying. But, when I want you to marry us, so we get our discount on our marriage license, wink, wink. And so I'm not going to tell you that he has a ton of red flags. His baby mama showed up and busted out my windows 2 weeks ago, but we're going to get married in 6 weeks, so we're not going to talk about that. Just marry us. So being open and honest as leaders, we're like, if pastor would say, you sure that's the right person for you, Chantel? Versus, go on, marry him. Then we wouldn't have as many problems as we have. But that is my personal opinion. But be honest and call it out. Like she said, call the thing a thing. He beating you up, don't marry him. She cheating on you, using your money. She been down the street with Joe Bob, don't marry her. But,
I'll say it's hard for the church not to be judgmental. And so when you say like, yeah, man, they lying to me possibly, think about when somebody is coming down for altar call. How often are they really telling you the real truth? I need prayer because I like touching little boys. I need prayer because I'm having an affair. I need prayer because I need deliverance from blah, 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 fill in the blank. Hey, that's not happening.
that's good.
And so because that's not happening and those things are kind of looked upon as, that's the big sin, that's the big sin. And so I think what the church could do a better job of is if we had more partnerships, if the church had, especially the black church, if we had more partnerships with people who in private practice, who some of them do some pro bono work, some type of partnerships with an agency to offer, even when y'all doing the building fund, allocate funding for that. Because we really need agency there in the church, because in addition to while you're at the altar, go on over here to the right and see Sister Denise.
So-and-so office is in,
Yes.
so-and-so's office is going to be in Freedom Hall in January, so y'all hear about that. Y'all blessing me when y'all know. And I know that they be lying, but yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, that's good.
So, look, no, thank you. That's a sour note to end on my end, right? Okay, so we want to open up the floor for some questions. There's something we're going to try to do with regards to the stream, which is to say, I need whoever's going to ask the question to use the microphone. I don't mind getting up and carrying it around, but I would prefer y'all would come up front because it would be easier for us to adjust our camera to catch you. And so that means if you have some questions or a comment, won't you come up to the front? I'm going to hand the mic off to you, and then I'll be trying to escort up front this way. Dr. Bridgman, you get, come on, guest first.
Thank you all for this conversation. Chantel, you mentioned in passing shame, and neither one of you actually talked about shame. So we've been using the word stigma,
Yes.
but I really want you to talk about the shame that people feel that sometimes keeps them from going to get the mental, emotional, medical help they need for mental health.
Yes, ma'am. That is a big part of everything and anything that we believe as people of color. I don't want to shame my family. I don't want to shame the name. And like I said, you know, what would it look like if someone like me had to go to a women's shelter? You know, people would think that, well, you probably wouldn't go. Yes, I would. And I'd be like, Dr. Stokes here. I know the protocol. I know the procedure. Call the people. Let them know I want all the services and I want all the resources. But actually, when you are involved in a domestic violence event, MPD has been trained, some of them, most of them, no disrespect to them, Earl, don't flip the table over, they are trained. I've gone to the training with them, the crisis intervention training, and it was really good. So they are trained in what to do. And one of the things they are supposed to ask you is, do you want to leave the home? They will call the shelter for you, so it is set up in place. Having worked in Division 10, the domestic violence court with Shelby County, most people say no. They would not leave their homes. They would stay there with their abuser, and they also fail to prosecute their batterer. So yes, the shame and the guilt is often what keeps people unwell or, you know, infamously sick, you know, because I don't want you to know my business. I don't want my name in the newspaper. I don't want being just busted. Let's say I don't want to be seen going to the emergency room with a black eye, so I'm going to hide, you know. So the shame has kept us stuck for hundreds of years, and some people are trying to get unstuck, and some people are comfortable with being stuck. You know, but shame is a big part of it, especially for men and women of color. You know, I'm glad to know that more men are coming to therapy. Like I said, I'm glad to know that more black men are becoming therapists, what we were talking about. But when I first opened up my private practice, that's all they used to come and see me. And I was really concerned, like, why are these men coming to see me? You know, did they write my name on the bathroom stall and say, you know, go see this therapist? You know, I was really somewhat offended. I was like, I want to work with women. But it taught me so much, and I was actually honored to be a part of so many black men's journey. I mean, some of them still doing well, some are not, but it just gave me insight as a woman of color, the struggle that men go through, you know, mother issues, trauma, abuse. You'll be surprised of how much stuff black men pack down out of shame as well. You know, they have more shame than we will ever know. More shame than we can ever imagine. And so when they come to therapy and they cry and they be like, I'm sorry for crying, I didn't mean to cry, I was taught not to cry, I'm like, no sir, you cried the entire hour and I don't care. So shame is problematic for people of color.
I would say, as much as we're talking about shame as it being a debilitating thing to prevent you, or the barrier that prevents you from progress, it is also something that, while you think it's a secret, it's really not a secret. And so we know shame. We all have probably had that uncle that, hey, don't you go, uncle, blah, 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 and don't you, we all have somebody in our family that we're supposed to be ashamed of, and the community is aware of it. The church is aware of it. Everybody know about it, we just don't go get no help for it. So we're using shame, the label shame, as the barrier of being lazy to do the work. As you say, like men that will talk to you and come talk to you. Men, we be talking about surface foolish stuff at the barbershop. We talk about surface foolish stuff at happy hour when we're watching the game. Like, we'll talk about some things, we don't really tell you how I feel about it. So that's the aspect of shame that we really need to start to target. How do you feel about a thing? Because that's the thing that's really preventing you. The shame and the guilt, I don't really want nobody to know I'm gay. Well, when you walked in here, I knew you was gay. It's those type of things. And so I call it out. I'm a big practitioner of that, and we're going to deal with the elephant in the room. We're going to talk about it, because that's the barrier that's preventing you from making some progress.
Yes, I agree.
I work in the substance abuse world. Work at a treatment center for adults, and I'm encountering a lot of substance abusers who have mental issues. What do you all call it? Y'all call it something,
Self-medicating?
no, not self-medicating. We have dual diagnosis.
Yes, sir.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And being that the church has a problem when it comes to addressing that, and that's something that the church will have to deal with. A lot of them are afraid of that. We here at Abyssinian, we believe that giving support to that issue is important for one's wholeness. But what my main concern is by being turning into a mental thing. Substance abuse is a mental issue. You know, we know that. Could you tell us something more about why people are so I guess no one is prepared, but I mean, for us as human beings to be so inadequate at dealing with people who have substance abuse problems, and how can we, I guess, be of any type of help to them, even though they might not be receptive to it?
Well, I went first last time.
I know there was a lot
Yeah,
in that, so, you know.
Could you rephrase your question?
Well, I'll rephrase it like this. Why are we afraid of people that have substance abuse problems?
Okay. I'm afraid of something that I don't understand. I'm afraid of what I don't know. And so when you present something to me, some level of addiction, the easy thing I can tell you, and then we need to pray about it, we're going to cast that devil out, put some oil on you, and then we're going to holler at you. That has been a practice that we've done to cast out that devil, cast out that demon, and we don't deal with, as you said, like the dual diagnosis of some. Not everybody has a dual diagnosis. With addiction, something as simple as this. When I'm getting ready to go out and I want to have some fun, I want to go kick it, some people will drink, and your brain is very, really very sharp. Oh man, you want to get up? You want to have fun? Let's drink. Let's make that a habit. When I want to calm down and I need a drink, I want to take an edible, I want to smoke something. My brain attaches now when I want to get up and down with a thing. Whether that's food, whether that's me going to the casino, whatever that is, my brain is sharp enough to attach to that, and those are the ways addictions are formed. And so if I don't really understand how to target the source of your addiction, when I've worked with people that have dealt with addiction, I'll never start with, you need to stop doing this, don't do that no more. Most times they already know that. Let's start with the source of what are you responding to. Now let's work backwards from that.
So I think something that people of color really like to stay away from is that addictions are hereditary. You know, once again, this is how I became a therapist, because of the dynamics of my family. And so it was highly likely, it is still very likely, that if I had not chosen a different path, then I too would have fallen in line with the primary addiction that my family members have. But seeing it from the outside looking in, I was like, I don't want to do that. Not everybody has that oomph in them and say, I want to do something different, because it is hereditary. And that's the thing that people try to stay away from. Well, I don't know what's wrong with Chantel. I don't know why she get high. I don't know why she do this. I don't know why you do that. Yes, you do. You know, it's right there. Like I said, there are no real secrets in families. We just cover it up. Like I say, everybody knows that you don't sit in Uncle so-and-so's lap. Versus telling him, don't come over here, get you some help. We're going to prosecute you. Just, you're too close to him. Stay away from him. No, don't come over here. You know, instead of calling things out, we placate it. Oh, well, that's okay. You know, he was in you know, he was in Desert Storm, and he ain't just been right since he got back from the war. Okay, the VA. You know, get people the help that they need, but yes, I most definitely agree, it's easier to not do anything than to do the wrong thing, but we have to try to do something to help people who come to this way, because people are always going to come to the church because we've been taught that the church is our hospital. We get everything that we need from the church, everything. Substance abuse, mental health, marriage counseling, food, money to pay our bills, a place to stay. Come to the church, okay? But we've gotten so unwell that we need multiple practitioners. But as far as addiction, that is hereditary, and people have to be open and honest about that. And versus, you know, recording people who are, you know, high, which really hurts and disappoints me every time I see that. You know, give the person some help. You know, do something, make an anonymous phone call. You know, somebody needs to be picked up and taken to the hospital, because you'll be surprised at what that anonymous phone call can do. But doing nothing has always been our problem.
Good afternoon. My question is related to, I actually have two, but I know other people need a chance. I'm going to do this one first. Talking about cultural competency. And I appreciate you, sir, for going ahead and saying things about elephants in the room, and you referenced, you know, somebody being gay or queer or what have you. My younger child is a queer man, and they are also, well, I should say, they're actually non-binary, so I should say that, you know. They are also in a doctoral program for clinical psychology. And one of the areas that they're targeting, or one of their specialties, because they have actually been practicing before this doctoral program, is supporting folks who are on that spectrum, LGBTQIA. And I know in the church, we don't want, you know, they have conversion therapies and things of that sort. And so when it comes to groups who are typically underserved, like LGBTQ, black men, and, you know, so on and so forth, what is it, when you're looking for that mental health practitioner, could you give us 2 or 3, 4 or 5 characteristics, qualities that you're looking for that match? Because I might match that, okay, you focus on people who are LGBTQIA and that's me. But you have a spiritual component that you might bring to it, and I don't do that, you know. So could you kind of help us figure out because we know when we go to a church, like I can't go to a whole lot of other churches, because there's some specific things that happen at this church that match with me spiritually, my principles, my values, my beliefs. So what are some things, 2 or 3, we can either ask the therapist or inquire about before we even pay that copay to sit with somebody, because that's part of the access right there. Before we pay $160 in the month trying to find the right fit. Am I asking that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so you mentioned psychologytoday.com. Are you on there?
Yes.
I am on there as well. And so I always tell people to look up my profile on psychologytoday.com, because I say it's like the speed dating of therapists, because you can get all the information you want about me, what are my beliefs, not my personal beliefs, but you know, what are my modalities, you know, what angle am I coming from. It has a statement on there. It tells you what age group you see, how much the rate is, the insurance and things like that. So that is a snapshot where you can see, okay, well, she didn't mention anything about wanting to work with people who are transgender or a queer, which I love working with same-sex couples because they're so funny. And the reason why they're so funny is because they have the exact same issues as men and women. And so they tickle me, and I love them because I sit there like a tennis match, like, It's my favorite form of therapy, marriage counseling, because they're no different, and like anything, like somebody, lay my wig right up, like, well, who did your hair? I'm sending them to that person. And so they were like, we met this little black lady who just did not judge us. She didn't steer us in the right direction. She didn't give us no Bible scriptures, and I never do that. That's my background. That's my personal belief system. But legally, clinically, through the state of Tennessee, I cannot bring that into your counseling session, start thumping you on the head with a Bible, because that doesn't have anything to do with what you're coming to me for. So, I can't do that anyway. Now, if I marketed myself as a Christian counselor, which I don't, then that would be something different. Then you will be expecting, to see, remnants of, this is a Christian counselor. My office is decorated with peacocks. So, you can't tell what's going on with me. But if you go onto psychologytoday.com, you can tell whether or not I would be a good fit or he would be a good fit, because it asks you what is your target audience. And most people will put it in there. So I don't have a preference. I don't like dealing with children. I don't want to see no children. I don't. That's because I have teenagers. And so I don't want to deal with other people's children and come home, mama. These people would not eat until I get there. It's like, what is wrong with you? You need to go to counseling. So I don't deal with children unless it's a special case. But the best way to do that is to go on psychologytoday.com. And one more thing, I personally, since my brother said I can do a shameless plug, I do a free 15-minute consultation. So you can talk to me, or we can do a Zoom. You can see me, be like,
Church folk don't know when to shout, see?
and so, yeah, I do, and I put that on my website, and it's all on my social media that I do a free 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Don't try and get off now. I'm from North Memphis, and I hang up after 16 minutes. I won't. But that's how you know, and it's a good feel, it's not a good feel. That doesn't seem genuine, I don't know. But I give you the opportunity to select me to be your therapist or not.
All right, this is going wonderfully well. We got about 8 to 10 minutes before we wrap up. Please make sure you bring your questions up for these wonderful people. Here you go.
Hi. So I haven't heard much about children, and as you have, I see now.
I do have a couple of children that I see, but like I said, it's case by case. I've met with the parent, we did the consultation, and I agreed to it. But a caseload full of children, no.
Okay. So
that's the one thing about being a therapist who has a therapist. No, and this is November, by the way, shameless plug. Say no to anything and everything that you don't want to do. That's boundaries.
So my question for you is, how can mental health education be integrated into schools and workplaces, and what preventative measures can be implemented to promote mental well-being in children and adolescents?
I worked in the school system, and actually there is a whole mental health department that is responsible for all of the students in the SES, within SES, what is it, SES, MCS, whatever it is now. So they have school psychologists, they have school counselors, social workers, all of these behavior specialists, all of these things designed to address the mental welfare of our kids. Now, one of the, I guess the more pressing question would be, not that it is valuable, how useful is it? So when I have a social worker that's one social worker in the school that has 13, 14, 1,500 kids, and I come once or twice a week and I see my 2 or 3, how effective is that? Not effective at all. If I only see my school psychologist or really the school psychologist mental health team after a school or mass shooting or something has happened, that's when I see that area, that agency. How effective is that? It's not. And so my group practice, we partner with, a few schools. I contract out with some schools for that work because we want to get in there and do it on a more consistent, effective basis. What they're prioritizing is results. They got academics that they're prioritizing for funding. So social emotional learning has not or has yet to be prioritized in the state of Tennessee in education, period. It's becoming more of a thing. It's just not effectively utilized in the school system in a way that it works.
I want to take a point of privilege. To your point, I am a licensed school social worker, and my role, I don't really want to be on camera, but okay. And my role is I'm based in the school, in one school. I've done MSCS, and I had 5 schools, and that was too much. I couldn't be effective in seeing my kids because guess what? If I was sitting down having an individual conversation with a student and my phone went off for a crisis in my other school, I had to stop what I was doing and go to that other school. My dream as a mental health professional is that every school can have their own person. That way you are there, you can see your kids have access to you, because my students have access to me Monday through Friday, unless I'm out of the train. But I'm based at one school. I don't want to be in the camera. But that's my job. It's slightly different, and my title is Counseling Intervention Specialist. However, my licensure is in school social work. But I've done having multiple schools, and it bothered me. Because if I'm sitting down having a conversation with a child, I can remember exactly, I was having an individual session with a first grader. And my phone started ringing. And I was like, what is it? It rang again. And it was one of my supervisors. I had to get up, answer the phone call, and end that session with that baby. And that right there for me, that was like, I can't do this. I need to be in a space where my children have access to me. And I've done that before at another school, at my previous school, before we merged with Legacy Shelby County, Memphis City. But at my particular school now, Houston High School, I am based in that school Monday through Friday, all day. And I tell my kids all the time, and they can attest, unless my door is closed, it's always open. So I wish that could be a model for all schools. Yes.
I do have an access question, but I just want to say to everybody at large, and this is speaking from personal experience, be very mindful if you call the police for assistance with someone who is having a mental health issue. Be very cautious about that. I would advise to make sure that you have a safety person present. Don't just send them to somebody's house, and because they are I don't care how much training they have, they also are bringing their biases. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm just telling from personal experience. Now, my question, again, is an access question. After hours, I have an extreme phobia. I mean, like, yeah, very extreme. And my phobia was triggered after hours. And so I called an after hours line because I am having just screaming, raging, weeping, and knowing I need to get myself under control, but I didn't have anybody else to call. So I called the number. in the midst of the person, the after-hours person speaking with me, somebody else called. He had to leave me, trembling, shaking, nauseated, feeling like I'm about to throw up, just, heart beating so hard. He had to leave me to check and see. So he was triaging who needs me most. And this is something I wish our city officials would really put more attention to as well, because it is political. So now, my access question. If someone experiences something like I experienced after hours, who or what agency would you advise them to contact to help them get over the hump or go to somewhere they need to go? Who do you call when it's after hours and you're feeling like you might not be safe for yourself or someone else, or if somebody needs to call? Who do you call?
In my practice, I'm always going to say, in the moment of a crisis or emergency, don't call me, call 911. I hear your concern about calling 911. There are agencies, mobile crisis, if you're about to harm yourself or anything like that, the Johnny on the spot that are utilized for stuff like that. Mobile crisis, just that one guy, yeah. Because the city isn't school system, church, fill in the blank. This is not something that we have keenly prioritized. The funding isn't there. And so we don't have the necessary personnel often if several people are in need at the same time. I mean, that's just 911 period. For me, my clients, they have slight access. If you can shoot me a text and let me know if it's something, hey Tim, I'm on the edge, man, can you do, we can have a quick 5-minute back and forth conversation via text to talk you off the ledge, because sometimes it can be just as simple as that. Because we are in practice together, you are already learning skills to deal with the source of that panic attack, to deal with that trauma. So that's how I deal with it. Otherwise, I don't allow someone else's emergency or crisis to become mine. I would never have a life if I did that.
I too was going to mention mobile crisis and, of course, the crisis center, which people may not know that they can call and talk to someone 24 hours a day here in Memphis. It's something that's probably underutilized, but just to play devil's advocate in the church, but having worked with these agencies, this is what I will say respectfully with love. When these agencies have funding, but people do not utilize the resources, they lose the funding, and that's just the truth. I work with a lot of grant programs, and people in Memphis would say, I don't like grant programs because they lose their funding, and that's not true. The more people who utilize the services, the more funding that they will get, because you have to submit all these reports and, prove what you have done with the funding and the money, and then you get more money. The Rape Crisis Center is grant funded, and that place is spectacular, but like I said, people don't want to go there because, I don't want to be stigmatized and things like that, but they pay your utility bill, your rent. During COVID, they had so much funding that you won't even believe what was really coming in and out of that building. But in order for there to be more mobile assessors, then, people have to utilize the telephone number, and they can know that we need more than one person working Shelby County, Tipton County, Fayette County. But, people don't want to call mobile crisis, and it's no disrespect to what you said, but I went through the training, so I know how they are trained. They do know what to do. Yeah, you may get some jerks on there who don't need to be on there.
Why you put your hand on me like I'm the jerk who don't need to be on?
No, because I don't want you to go on your rant talking about the issue that should not be named, because some of those guys are qualified and they do meet the criteria and they are educated. Those people who you're mad with. Okay, so So you have to meet the criteria to go to the CIT training, is my point. So they are equipped. Now, yeah, if somebody's being a hothead, then no, you don't want to call that person out to a schizophrenic with a gun standing in his mama yard with his underwear on. You don't go, let me go. So the funding is available here in Memphis and Shelby County, but people have to utilize the resources. It's like my private practice. If I never had any patients, I would have to close down. But because I come to events like this, which I'm always honored to, and, share the understanding that it's nothing wrong with coming there, they be like, well, let me call that lady, which I have gotten some weird phone calls. Somebody called me one time at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I answered. And the person, it is a dummy number, but it comes to my actual phone. So I answered, and I was like, hello, and the person hung up. And I called back. I said, did you just call? Were you trying to talk to someone? She was like, I thought I was going to get a voicemail. I said, no, what's going on? So I talked to this lady for about 30 minutes. Never met her, never showed up, didn't get a dime, but I helped somebody that night. Okay? So it all depends. Once again, you go on psychologyday.com, like, I don't like that weed she got on today. But you come back 6 months later, I might have the blonde wig on. You're like, I like that one, so I won't talk to her. So, it just depends. But seriously, a lot of people do select me because I am a black woman, okay?
Would y'all do me a favor and celebrate my dear sister Chantel Stokes and my dear brother Tim Terry? Come on, y'all can do better than that. They have been a gem and a jewel for us today. So, let me say it is 1:45. We have spent some wonderful time together today, and we are about to be wrapping up. Now, please make sure you get their contact information. Some of you have already asked me how to be in contact with them. I'm sure they'll stick around for a few minutes, and they should, if they don't have cars, I'm sure they have something that could allow you to get in contact with them and have access to them. I want to ask y'all again, tomorrow morning,